Good morning everybody, this is Kevin out on another walk, and as usual Cynthia's along with me, but we are at Henley, and just above us to our left, which is up that way, you might see a top of a car flash by. That's the 286, the Hayesmead and Midhurst Road, and just in front of me you can see a stone wall which runs along here, all covered in moss. Now that is the wall of a house that used to stand through where I'm looking towards now, and the house was called Small Profits, and as a boy I can remember the end wall standing where the chimney was, but it's set just off the 286, as I say, and I believe the family that lived in there was a family called the Rapsums. They are in the 1881 census for this area. So I've come up this way to have a look, see if we can find the old house. There's not much of it left now. I shouldn't think. There might be some foundations, but we'll see what we can find. Well, we found what we think is where the foundations of the house was, and it was just this side of the big old yew tree that's there. But we also remember when Cynthia and I went to school at Midhurst, we think just up in that corner there used to be some brick built steps coming down from the old 286 down to this property, and there used to be a chimney that stood here, which obviously has got fallen over or got pushed over. But yeah, there used to be those steps up there. We remember them very well. But we've definitely found evidence of where the house was, and part of an old sink, broken jars and bottles and things like that. But the other thing that was always here was snowdrops and daffodils, and I'm just trying to get down under the trees, and there is some of the snowdrops, and just over that way there's the signs of the daffodils coming through. But it's one of the things that you always remember when you drive up round here, the beautiful snowdrops and the daffodils. So we've achieved what we set out to do on the first part of this walk, and that's find where Small Profits used to be, and that's set in this dip, but obviously back in 1881 on the census, and I'm sure that's the census they're on. It might have been the 1891, but they were definitely living here at that time. But I believe, and I'm not absolutely certain about this, my auntie, who lived at Henley Common, which is just about 3/4 of a mile down the road from here, seems to remember the actual name of the family that lived here. So whether she knew part of the family or not, I don't know. But anyway, that's it. That's the first part of our walk achieved, which is what we've been planning to do for some time. We've just stopped part way along our walk in this plantation, and just up there, I'll catch the top of a car going along in a minute. There's one there, 286. And when I was a little boy, I'm 65 now, I can remember this plantation being planted, and I'd probably been about 9 or 10. So these trees are approximately 55 years old, and this is Lord Cowdrey's estate, and the two men that planted this lot right the way through was a chap called Bill Glue, or William Glue. Everybody knew him as Bill. And I think the other gentleman was a Mr. Trussler, and both Bill and Mr. Trussler used to live next door to each other on the road from Fernhurst to Milland. So we're just on this little track here with a little bit of a crossroads there. So yeah, so it's a bit of a little bit strange, I suppose, standing amongst all this lot that I haven't stood in probably ever, but I remember them being planted. And as you can see, They are very tall indeed. But as Cynthia pointed out just now, when she moved to the area when she was 13, she can remember all these trees being very tiny. But the valley, you could see right the way across the valley from the road as we went to school on a school coach. And she's quite right, it's just such a shame that that beautiful view is completely gone. But there we go, that's progress, I suppose. But perhaps one day we'll actually see this not being felled. We're now on the opposite side of the road to the 286, and the 286 is down that away. And right the way along here, we've got a stone wall that runs right the way through. I'm just going to wander up this way and try not to trip. Just so you can see where the line of this wall runs. You can see where these beech trees have grown out of the wall. Just down there, look, it runs along there, and it continues right up along that line. But as you can see, there's sweet chestnut all up through here. And we had a strange thing we noticed earlier on when we were down on the other side of the road, that all the sweet chestnut has died. Every bit of it. But I was telling Cynthia about when I was a boy and I lived up here at Henley Common, and I had this memory of my brother Keith and a next door neighbour's son Norman and myself. We used to come up here and we used to have a cycle track, and I've found it. And we used to come in from that direction there. You can see the entrance from those trees there, and we used to come down through this valley, and we used to come up and through just in the centre of the shot there, and then we'd loop all the way round along the middle bank there, not the far distance one. And we used to do that. But I was also told, or I have this memory, someone told me that there was a very early motorcycle track up here where they used to ride their bikes round. So that would have been back, you know, very early days. But we're right in the middle of this beach. Absolutely lovely. But our footpath is actually back over that way. So I just thought I'd bring this bit in to add to the story of our walk today. We are now above Henley Common. If I turn around this way, pan around, Henley Common is down in that direction, and away in the distance there is the end of a road which is by the King's Arms, and a little bit sort of perhaps north east is the Thirdly House. But we've come to this area here in front of us, which is where some coppicing has been done of sweet chestnut. And I'm absolutely disgusted by it, because my family were in the business of cutting sweet chestnut. And I made a comment to Cynthia just now that my grandfather and my father would be turning in their graves to see that. There was never any rubbish left. As they cut it, it was trimmed and burnt up, and it was left tidy. This has just been left, and it will not be cleared up, because I've got evidence of that, because just on the other side of this track is some sweet chestnut that was coppiced 2 or 3 years ago perhaps, and you can see that all the rubbish has just been left piled up. And I can see it by my naked eye, way down there in the distance. It's all just been left there. It's in my mind, absolutely disgraceful. But you've got the stumps there where it's been coppiced. And again, I mentioned earlier on in another video, I'm sure this is the same section of wood that my father was involved with actually cutting. And they cut all that lot down through there that you can see that's not been cut back. But I'm sure that this was part of the acreage that was bought by the Fernhurst Chestnut Fencing Company, and they cut all this lot through. But as I said, they would never have left all the rubbish laying about. So, a bit disappointed that this is the way it's now being done. Is it laziness? Is it to do with the wildlife? I don't know. But as I say, I'm pretty disappointed about it. But we have a yew tree growing out in the middle of a sweet chestnut forest or plantation. We're now at the end of our walk. We've just come down Henley Village Road, which used to be known as the Old Roman Road when I was a boy living around here. And we've done a really long walk actually today. We've come up through Woolbeeding Common, which we weren't expecting to do. But we've just come to the end of our walk. We had to do a bit of a detour, probably about a mile and a half, because we didn't want to walk down a section of the A286 towards Henley Village, because it's a very narrow piece of road and it's a quite fast bit of road for both direction traffic. But we've just seen away in the distance there some very heavy black clouds, so we think that somebody's getting a nice deluge of rain. So as I say, we've finished our walk now. So Cynthia looks as if she's having a drink of coffee. So I'm just heading back now, and this is Kevin and Cynthia saying bye-bye. Bye.